Today we'll talk about ASC 606 and we'll have 5 episodes on this, on revenue recognition alone. So let's start off with a case study. Your sales team, they just closed a $200,000 deal. It's awesome. The customer sent an email saying, hey, we're interested in moving forward. So at this point, based on the email, can you recognize revenue yet? I don't think so. Not so fast. Under ASC 606, you first need to prove you actually have an executed contract. Today, I'm showing you exactly what counts as a contract and what does not. I'm a finance exec, and I've helped several companies implement ASC 606 compliance over the years. And the step one, it sounds mighty simple. Identify the contract, but I've seen companies get this wrong, and they have to restate millions in revenue, especially once the auditors do the audit. Let me show you the 5 criteria that separate real contracts from, say, wishful thinking. The ASC 606 requires 5 specific criteria for a valid contract. Think of them as a checklist. And you need all 5. And there are several criteria. Criteria 1, the approval has to be done by or executed by both parties. This means signed agreements, not just verbal commitments. For example, let's say a customer signs your standard service agreement, that is good. But if a customer just emails to you and says, hey, this looks great, we'll probably sign next week, you have a problem. You look at the criteria 2, are there clear rights and obligations? Both sides must know what they're getting into and what they're giving up. A good example might be a customer gets a 12-month software license, they pay $120,000 in quarterly installments. Very definite. A very bad example, customer gets access to a platform and related services as needed. There's also criteria 3, commercial substance. Does the contract, does it really represent a real business? There's economics behind it, not just paperwork, substance over form. This usually is not a problem unless you're dealing with related parties on very unusual arrangements, maybe some sidebar agreements. Then there's criteria 4. Payment terms have to be identified. You know how much and when you'll be paid. A good example is $50,000 will be due within, let's say, 30 days of contract signing. And a bad example, payment terms will be determined based on project scope. And then the final 5th criteria, very important, the collection has to be probable. You expect to actually receive the money you're owed. This is about the customer's ability and the intention to pay, not whether they might cancel the contract later. So a real-world example would be that a software company receives this email. We love your demo and we want to move forward with the annual plan for $100,000. Our legal team is reviewing the contract. So, I'm curious, is this a valid contract under ASC 606? No. They are missing criteria 1 and 4. There are no signatures and no specific payment terms. So there's a gray area. What about POs, purchase orders? What about master service agreements? What about framework contracts? The key question that we need to ask, are the rights and obligations clear and are they enforceable? If a customer could walk away tomorrow with no consequences, you probably don't have a contract yet. And there are certain common mistakes that occur. Treating letters of intent as contracts, you shouldn't do that. Recognizing revenue on verbal commitments, very dangerous. Ignoring the collectability concerns because a customer is maybe branded or well-known, not necessarily, it doesn't work. So a pro tip I would say is that when in doubt, ask this question, if this customer stopped cooperating tomorrow, could we legally enforce our rights on the services that we have rendered? If the answer is no, you don't have a contract. Let's move on to episode 2. This is the second video of the revenue recognition series. And we're going to talk about identify the performance obligations. So your company just signed a $200,000, $300,000 contract for software implementation and training. How many different revenue streams is that? Most CFOs would say 3. Under ASC 606, the answer depends on whether each piece is distinct. If you get this wrong, your revenue timing could be completely off. So let's deep dive into why. Performance obligations, it's a very important concept in revenue recognition, are promises you make to customers, and each separate promise might require a different revenue recognition timing. I've seen companies combine things that should be separate and separate things that actually should be combined. So today I'll walk you through and I'll show you how to get this right. A performance obligation is a promise to deliver something distinct to your customer. And the key word is distinct. And there's actually a two-part distinct test. Part one, can the customer benefit from this item by itself? Independently, discreetly. Think, could the customer use this without anything else from us? Let me give you an example. A software license is distinct because a customer can use the software independently. However, a counterexample would be, what if there's a software activation key? A software activation key is not distinct because it's useless without the software. Let's talk about part two. Is this promise separately identifiable from other promises? Think, are we providing separate value here? Or is this just part of a combined deliverable? So let me walk you through an easy example that will resonate well with you. A scenario one, you have a software plus training. Software licenses are $200,000, user training is $50,000. Very simple, right? So you do the analysis. Training is distinct because customers could get training elsewhere. Third party. And the software works without training. So these are two performance obligations. They're separate from one another. But what about customer software development? That becomes interesting. You have software development for $400,000, and then you have to integrate with the database instance, existing systems, $100,000. So how would you analyze this? The integration is so customized that the software is useless without it. They are highly integrated. So what happens at that point? It is considered one combined performance obligation. So you have to do what is called the bundle test. Ask yourself, are we providing a combined output that is greater than the sum of its parts? If yes, it's probably one performance obligation. If no, they are likely separate. A real-world example would be, let's think about an e-commerce platform contract. You have a contract for $500,000 and the platform license alone is $300,000. Your custom checkout integration in the website is $100,000. Your payment processing setup is about $50,000. And there is about a 6-month support, about $50,000. So what is the analysis? How do you go about this? Your platform license is distinct because it works independently. But your custom checkout, not distinct. Why? Because the platform is useless for this customer without it. Your payment setup, it's not distinct, part of an integrated solution. Your support, that can be distinct. You can go to somebody else, third party, and get that thing after delivery. So the result is that now you have two performance obligations. You have the platform plus a checkout plus a payment setup, the $450,000 is bundled in one. And then the support services are completely separate. It's $50,000, third party. So what are the common mistakes? You separate everything just because you could sell them separately. Combining everything just because it is in one contract. Ignoring how integrated your deliverables actually are. So there's a practical test to navigate this. If the customer hired a different vendor for one piece, would your other deliverables still provide full value? If yes, they are distinct. Performance obligations determine when you recognize revenue. If you get them wrong in step 2, the allocation, and everything else in ASC 606 will be wrong too. So focus on from the customer's perspective, not from accounting. What separate value are you providing? Each distinct value stream is a separate performance obligation. In episode 3, we'll cover how do you determine the transaction price. That's where we talk about discounts, we talk about bonuses and variable pricing, which makes things very interesting.